Right, it would appear that my watch is a minute slow. I've been told it is dead on 6 o'clock now. So welcome to this evening's Scrutiny Committee. For those watching on YouTube and watching at home, I'm Councillor David Howarth. I'm the chairman of the committee. Myself and Darren are in the building this evening for this meeting, and we've advised each other of the best way to leave in the event of a fire. So we don't need to actually tell anybody else. So first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any? I believe we're all here. In which case, do we have any declarations of interest? No, that takes us to item 3.
Chairman.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if Councillor Marsh has managed to join the meeting. He was having technical difficulties earlier. So if he hasn't managed to join, if I could record his apologies, please.
Okay, we'll do. We'll see if he manages to get in, and if not, we'll make sure those are noted.
Thank you.
Item 3 is the minutes of the last Scrutiny Committee meeting held on the 22nd of October. I believe we may have an amendment to those. Yeah, Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chairman. Can I thank Charlotte for the excellent quality of the minutes as usual. Just one point I wanted to raise, if I may, under page 8. Recommendation 3, we'd requested that consultation be undertaken with a number of business organisations which are listed, the FSB, the IOD and the CBI. We also requested that it would take place with the Chambers of Commerce, which has been omitted from the minutes, so if that could be added, please. And equally under matters arising, that item is missing as well from that for the same reason. But if that could be followed through. Because as we agreed last time, that it will be important for the council to engage with these organisations moving forward to implement that policy. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. With that amendment, can we agree those minutes? Sorry, Councillor Thirlbourne has indicated.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just highlight item 22D on page 12? We said that we bring leisure items forward to this meeting and future meetings. We've not done that.
Right, at the moment, we are just agreeing the minutes. I believe that will be coming up later in the meeting. If you could actually raise it then.
Okay.
So, Councillor Walton?
It's just a question, Chair, about agenda item 3, page 7, item 19, about the social value monitoring officer. Have we got any update on that, please? Has somebody been appointed?
Sorry, we're struggling a bit to find whereabouts we are. So do you say
page 7?
So page 7, yeah.
It's on the action plan. It's the 4th paragraph down, and it says the social value monitoring officer would be employed to oversee progress. And I just wondered if we'd any information concerning that. Has somebody been employed?
Yeah, please. If I can just bring Darren in for that one.
Thank you, Chair. The action plan came to the Scrutiny Committee at the last meeting for consultation. It is yet to be agreed by the Cabinet, so those actions are still being worked up at the moment, but I'll get a more detailed response for the committee outside the meeting, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
Councillor Coulton?
No, sorry.
No, right, okay. No. If there's nothing else on those minutes, then can we agree those?
Agreed, that, Chairman.
Thank you. That takes us to the minutes of the last scrutiny budget and performance panel on the 9th of November. Our members are asked to note the minutes. So can we note those? I'll take silence as a yes. Thank you. That then takes us to item number 5, which is matters arising from previous scrutiny committee meetings. And I think Councillor Thirlborn, this might be an opportunity to come in.
Yes, this is. I take it this is where you want to talk about the leisure facilities, sir, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Susan Jones couldn't actually attend this meeting, so we did say we would reschedule, and that will be coming back to a future meeting.
Right, thank you, Chair.
Any other matters arising from previous scrutiny committee meetings?
Chairman.
Yeah, Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a comment, really. It's about the recommendations made at the scrutiny from July 2019. It appears that none have been of the accepted recommendations have been completed. And I'd just like an update on some of the recommendations that we made at scrutiny and why there hasn't any of them haven't been completed since this time.
Right, I'm advised that we will obtain an update on the progress report for the next meeting.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I can't answer any of those at the moment, but we will get the information and we'll make sure it's there and that progress column is updated.
Councillor Michael Green.
Councillor Michael Green. The problem is I've got a screen at the back of the room and I can't actually see it. I could do with one here so I can see who's waving. Councillor Green.
Don't worry, Chairman, that's okay. Thank you. I indicated to speak on a similar item to Councillor Walton, so you've already covered that. But just to flag up for completeness, the point that we've added to the minutes now about the Chamber of Commerce, it's referred to in minute 19.3, so it probably needs to be added to that under this item as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, that's noted. Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Thanks, Chair. Can you hear me?
So, yes.
Sorry for asking complicated questions so early in the meeting. It was just a comment really on some of the things that that were agreed back in July of last year that, whilst they've been accepted, have not necessarily been implemented. And if you think about things like the master plans, obviously we are well ahead with those, and hopefully we'll hear something very soon about the town deal bid for Leyland. But with the best will in the world, we've been operating in a very strange place. And some of the things that we would have liked to have done have not quite yet come to fruition. But I can give members of the committee, I think, the reassurance that many of the things that were raised back in July of last year, and indeed some of the things in November that have not yet been completed, we are well on with, but just not yet completed.
Okay, thank you for that. We will look forward to a more substantial update at the next scrutiny meeting. Do we have anything else on item 5? If not, if I can move on to item 6, which is the Climate Emergency Action Plan consultation. And if I could welcome Councillor Keith Martin, who's the chair of the working group, along with Jennifer Mullin, Neil Martin and Melanie Berry, who are here to assist us with any questions we may have. Would somebody like to introduce this?
I can do it. Okay. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting us. It's very kind of you. in 2019, this council declared a climate emergency, and it would also promise to work on it and try to get things sorted by 2030. I think it's July 2020, we published the document that I hope you do have in front of you, which is the climate emergency strategy. We're slowly working through those, and we've worked a list of actions that we would like to take. I must also include that the officers have been absolutely fantastic with the work that they've done, as well as having to cope with the COVID issues that we've had as well. So things have been a little bit difficult, and it's a bit of a spluttery start, you could say, but hopefully we'll get on track. And it's nice to see that so many members of your committee are also members of my committee with similar goals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Would any of the officers like to add to that? No, in which case we do have, if I can throw it open to the committee for questions, lines of inquiry. Perhaps if I could start, what approach has been taken to consulting on the themes for the Climate Emergency Action Plan?
Okay, Neil will probably answer that better than I can. He's there more than I am.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Thank you, Chair. The themes were derived from discussions within the climate emergency group, and from looking at what other bodies and councils were doing around the country. Initially within the group, it was determined where we would focus the attention on looking at reducing the carbon emissions from both the council and the borough, and that led into the various themes that have been chosen. There's in principle 3 stages or 3 areas to look at, and we went for a stage 2 approach, which includes the themes that have been chosen. That answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Could I bring in Councillor Lomax?
Yeah, hiya. We've extended the consultation, but I'm just wondering what response there's been so far to the consultation. Cheers.
Thank you for that one. The consultation was extended partly due to the current COVID situation. The exact response, I'm afraid I don't have. The questionnaire is being it was put out, and the answers being collated by our public relations team. The last time I spoke to them, we had about 45 to 50 responses. Hoping we've got a few more than that at the moment. Obviously, the next few weeks, I'm hoping that we'll get some more feedback as well.
Yeah, they have been sent out to schools, to our community groups. They've been sent out through our networks that we've got of our partners. So they have been sent far and wide. I just think during this period, it's really difficult to shift people's focus away from COVID and look at climate change. But we have circulated it far and wide. It's on social media. It's on the front cover of the website. So we're doing as much as we can to try and get people thinking about something else other than COVID. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Can I bring Councillor Thirlbourne in?
I think you've answered my questions, but here we go. Why do you think we've had such a response, and how do you think we can encourage the public to do more?
Anybody else first?
That's it's like any consultation. I feel that we've done all we can to publish it, and I think we've pushed it as far as we can. I am also relying on councillors to push this through their networks as well, which would be great if we could do that. And I'm sure the officers will have probably a more professional response than mine, but that's mine.
Well, we did have a plan and to do it via the schools, and we thought about a competition to work with our sports development team, maybe to look at giving a bike away as a prize for young people and getting involved. It just hasn't worked out at the moment because of COVID. But we're trying to get as far and wide as we possibly can, and we're hoping a lot of our partners will do that for us too. I know you've been working with Progress as well, haven't you? The Housing Association, to get it out to their tenants in the newsletter. So we're trying to get it far and wide as much as we can.
Yeah, we've been working with Progress, and we'll be doing a few more press releases over the next sort of couple of weeks, just leading up to the end of it. Hopefully, we'll get some more responses.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sharples.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In addition to the public consultation, what other evidence is being used to develop the action plan?
So this has a lot of the work that went into the strategy is also being used. So we have produced a carbon footprint for both the council and the borough, looking at our carbon emissions and what reduction we need. We've been doing some work, particularly recently, looking at what measures we as a council need to take to reduce our footprint. Other than that, there's a lot of research being done by officers and some members of the committee to come up with ideas and sort of the way forward to reduce our footprint and reach that carbon neutral stage.
Yeah, because we need to assess every suggestion on a cost benefits analysis. What are the costs of the work that's been suggested and what the benefits are in reducing our carbon footprint? So there's a lot of research gone into that. Lancaster University is a particular good university for research into carbon reduction and air quality. So we'll be looking at lots of studies and looking at the benefits of each of the suggested implementation, each of the suggested ideas from the consultation, and working obviously with our partners on looking at the suggestions to reduce the carbon footprint.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, Councillor Matt Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. How will the action plan link with the council's new corporate strategy?
Right, so the green agenda is part of the corporate strategy. So that is one of the corporate projects on the corporate strategy. So that green agenda doesn't just have the carbon neutrality aim, but there's also other things about, the tree planting, air quality, plastics, single-use plastics. So that project has to be monitored, and it's got a project implementation document and obviously project management. So that is one of the key projects in the corporate plan that the officers have to monitor and make sure that we're reporting on. So each quarter reporting will be some information there about the carbon neutrality, but also about the green agenda.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Will Adams.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening. What direct influence does the council have on tackling climate change?
The biggest one is obviously our own activities, estates, transport, etc. Beyond that, there is some regulatory impact from sort of planning, builder control, environmental pollution aspects, although that is relatively limited due to current guidance and legislation that's out there. Beyond, and the next stage obviously is the educational and persuasive view, leading from example, and trying to encourage both businesses and the community to move forward with a reduced carbon lifestyle.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Colin, Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Chair. So how does the council engage and work with partners such as the County Council, businesses and organisations on climate change?
We're still at a fairly early stage in this process as we're still developing the action plan itself. We are having, officers are having meetings with people like Progress Housing, districts and county councils across Lancashire and further afield in the northwest to build on ideas, best practice. We will be doing a lot more in the future, hopefully, particularly with the county, in working together on specific projects. We have contacted schools, and we're working with schools as well, and some of the larger businesses within the borough. These are only initial steps. There's a lot more to be done moving forward, and again, the action plan will hopefully help focus those attempts as well.
Yeah.
Can I just add that we also have some internal negotiations to do with planning and the control of our fleet as well. I think that needs to be considered as well. I mean, planning can make a huge influence on the carbon output of this of the borough, from simple things as traffic management plans to make sure lorries don't go through Leyland and use the existing trunk road or ex-trunk roads to access the motorway network. So I think it's a body of work that not only is outside, but I think it would heavily rely on some internal negotiations as well. And we do plan to work with planning externally with other planners as well as our own planners to try and come up with ways of doing that. At the moment, we're very limited on policy and things like that. We don't have many supplementary planning documents with regard to the environment, except for I think just the wind turbine one. I'm sure Stan could be stood corrected if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's the only one we have, which I also, if members will remember from a few years ago, we would need to look at that again, I think.
Yeah, and just to add that we're part of county-wide groups, so we've been doing a lot of bids with our county colleagues, with other borough councils, and we were successful. Karen will remember getting some electric vehicle hookup points that we did with our partners in other local authorities in the county. So we're working with county colleagues to look at what's there and what's available. Thanks.
Yes, it was a good project, that, Jennifer, wasn't it? Yes, and it helped considerably. So let's look forward to working with partners again to develop the action plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Colin Coulton?
Thank you, Chair. How can our communities best be mobilised to help to minimise the effects of climate change? And in particular, how can our my neighbourhood community hubs be best used to this endeavour? Thank you.
Who's got the short straw? Somebody must have.
I know.
Sorry, I was just making some notes there.
I know, that's such a big question, isn't it? What can our community do? Well, lots. And I think it's about really the council getting out some information about what small steps that people make to make a small change, and what bigger steps people can make to make a bigger change in the ability to go carbon neutral. And I think from the neighbourhood forums, I think it's looking at projects that we can do to really make a difference to carbon neutrality, especially in those areas where we know there's issues with air quality. So it's really looking at the community, what's out there and what we can mobilise. I think, Neil, if you want to add some more into that.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question, a very difficult question to answer, unfortunately. It's getting the community to get involved. It's giving them the right information to get them involved, to get them thinking about how they can make changes. Jennifer said it herself, we need to give them both the smaller steps they can take and the larger steps they can take to make a difference, so we can get them to question government policies, push for changes in their local communities, get involved in neighbourhood forums, come forward with the ideas that we can then help support as a council. So we can look at protecting areas of wildlife. We can start looking at renewable energy sources and moving things forward. And this is part of the reason why we're trying to push the consultation, to get the ideas from the public on what they think we need to do, so we can cost it out, so we can move it forward. At the end of the day, one of the biggest emissions is from residential properties. We need them on board to move the project forward.
Yeah.
It's at this stage, it's editing all ideas, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we need to look at as part of the project, which we've already discussed, is about energy efficiency, making sure homes can be heated and, heat loss is reduced. And that's one of the projects that Neil is quite heavily involved in, looking at housing quality in owner-occupied and in the private rented sector as well.
Thank you. Could I just add a supplement to that, Chair?
Before you do, Colin, I think Keith Martin wanted to come in.
Thank you, Chair. Changing the environment to a better environment that we live in adds a huge amount of social value to people's lives. It helps them live longer. It helps them live longer healthily. And I'm sure some of us will remember a recent issue with a young lady from London called Ella Adu Kissy Deborah. She was the first citizen of the UK to have air pollution as a cause of death on a death certificate, which is really quite sad considering the history with that. So I think to enthuse people, it's about the children and the grandchildren, because whatever we do, they're the ones who've got to clear it up. And I think we should make a start now. And I think getting that over to groups, the way they think, we've already stopped using balloons, for instance, in some of our events, because they're just a proper nightmare. Helium is an issue. The plastic that balloons are made of, and it rolls on from there. So I think it's about residents and groups who have influence over residents in creating some sort of thought process, so that you can say, do we need this? Can we do something else with that? Can we use string instead of cable tie? And it's that sort of process. It's very hard to put a finger on it, because for want of a better term, it's sort of common sense towards the environment, really. It's whether you want to see that lying around on a road in a week's time. And it's members as well to enthuse their communities into doing such a thing. And unfortunately, we might have to do a bit of reporting or a bit of feedback on issues that can create a poor environment for us to live in. For instance, pollution in ponds, and when we had that the brook in Leyland that was polluted by someone connecting the toilet to the wrong pipe and things like that, all those sort of things. So it's huge. It's very large. I wouldn't want to write it all down, but if you want, give me a few years, I will.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coulton, I believe you want to come back in with another question.
Thank you, Chair. Before Christmas, we had a newsletter which went, I think it went across the borough. Could something like that not be utilised to get the message across? Put regular articles in, the newsletters which we do. I think I'm right to say we're going to have 4 per year, I think.
The short answer is yes. It can. I think we're trying to move away from the paper base, but obviously if we are doing newsletters, then we can include things in that. One of the ideas that we had for the action plan was to come up with a list of information to put out there for people, that we can use the social media functions and get something out regularly on small steps, on things that we're doing they can do to improve things. So that's something we're working on within the part of the action plan to move forward as soon as possible.
Just on the social media, not everybody does social media, particularly the elderly.
They don't, and I say use social media. We'll use any option we can do to get the message out there. If that is newsletters, the newsletters. I know a lot of the members send out their own newsletters, so we can look at articles to go out with those as well. But by any means, if we can get the message out there, then let's try it.
Can I just in there as well, Councillor Coulton? I mean, if you do know of residents who are not on the internet, it's not beyond us to be able to print something out and hand it to them themselves rather than have a central machine do it for us. I think, as I said, we do newsletters and things like that. I'm sure the climate is quite a heady topic for some, but some people find it very important. I think we should always disseminate as far and wide as we can. So I think we as individual councillors have a responsibility to do that, as well as just relying on the council, because we are the council at the end of the day. It's not the officers who have to do it. It's us as a collective, and so far that's always seems to work.
Okay, thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Matt Trafford?
Thanks, Chair. Could you confirm for us how the action plan is going to link in with the already existing air quality action plan? Thank you.
Yeah, the two are two distinct pieces of work, but there is a lot of overlap between them. So there are, I'm sure, going to be some actions within the climate emergency action plan that will link directly and repeat some of those within the air quality action plan. But it was decided very early on within the group that the two areas of work would be kept separately while overlapping and being reported on.
Yeah, we have to do the air quality action plan as a legal duty. So we can't just have one plan, unfortunately, because we have to have an air quality action plan as a separate document, as well as obviously the climate change one. Yeah.
What will help is that the officers who are dealing with the air quality action plan are also dealing with the climate action plan. So that will help some continuity between the two as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Stephen Thirlbourne?
Will the action plan inform the local plan so that new developments will adopt carbon reduction principles and ways of life?
I hope so.
That's the dream. That's the ideal world.
We are already making or have made comments in relation to the local plan. The local plan development is quite far stretched at the moment, quite far forward in development, and obviously also includes the other councils, Chorley and Preston. But yes, we're hoping. I mean, we have made comments. We're hoping to strengthen within the local plan what standards we are asking for through the planning process as much as we possibly can do, and I think we'll probably end up within the climate action plan, although I can't say that for definite at the moment, that we'll have something in there regarding supplementary planning documents around the climate side to push things even further, just for South Ribble side of things.
Yeah, and we've made sure that those topics like climate change, air quality, energy generation are in there. We've obviously put our consultation in, and Jonathan has been to the group, the climate change group, a while ago to talk about the local plan and taking our views on board. So hopefully it'll be there in the local plan.
Sure, can I just come back with this supplementary?
Yeah, by all means.
Mainly directed most probably at Councillor Foster and Councillor Tomlinson. If such developments actually designed houses with really efficient homes, such as micro CHP and were Huff House efficient, would the council look at reducing council tax band for such houses? just as a comment?
I don't think we're legally allowed to do that. The council tax is set on approximate house valuations in 1992 or something ridiculous like that. But it's not a scheme where we can offer discounts on council tax. It simply doesn't exist as far as I understand.
Right, I was just thinking of incentives for improving the housing stock to reduce costs.
And I would there would potentially be a range of incentives we could look at. Perhaps working with SIL, maybe, I don't know, but council tax wouldn't be one of them. But if a developer came to us and said, is there some deal we can do if we build passive house standard houses like we are doing at the Mackenzie Arms, then I'd certainly be prepared to listen to them.
Right.
Chair, if I may quickly come in with a bit more information on that. The Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors and other bodies are currently pushing for a change to the council tax system where more energy efficient properties are charged less. So there may be a national change to that at some point in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor Karen Walton.
So how will the action plan reflect that climate change and carbon reduction is embedded into everything the council does so that it's included as part of the day-to-day job?
Well, it's part of the corporate plan, so it's in there. Each of the papers that we have to look at as a cabinet and a council also has to look at air quality implications. We will be having and we've started a staff working group, so that staff from all departments will be involved in delivering. And we've got obviously the green agenda within the corporate plan. So we're making sure that staff know about it, and we're making sure that it's always in the corporate plan that we can deliver the targets for the action plan.
Thank you.
Councillor Jackie Alty.
Thank you. We can appreciate that COVID-19 carries a negative impact upon experiences of fuel poverty in our communities, but how does fuel poverty fit in with the action plan and current themes?
Very heavily. Yeah. Jennifer touched on it earlier. One of the other approaches I'm looking at the moment is around energy efficiency of buildings, which falls directly into the fuel poverty side of things. If we can make properties more efficient, then we can tackle and deal with the energy, the fuel poverty problems within the borough. We're currently looking at a project where we're going to be tackling the worst energy efficient properties that we're aware of. A lot of those are occupied by the poorer residents within the borough. So hopefully we will tackle fuel poverty significantly as a mixture of the climate work and the housing work that we're doing.
Yeah, we're quite lucky in South Bribble that we've had a private sector stock survey of our housing stock. So we do know the numbers of houses that aren't energy efficient. So they've got these rating schemes. So we do know that where the poorly rated houses are. So we've got them identified. So next week in Cabinet, we've got a housing assistance policy. So we've got some changes of that. So we're going to be doing some projects on to encourage people to do the energy efficiency measures. There's also government grants and incentives on energy efficiency and the green schemes that they've got. So again, we're going to be promoting those ideas. And then also we're going to be doing a project on enforcement in the private sector houses. So with the private landlords. So we're going to be tackling those properties that we know that are owned by private landlords that aren't energy efficient. They probably don't have central heating systems, so we are going to be targeting them with enforcement action. So we will just be about to employ somebody to deliver that project for the council, targeting those properties in the private rented sector that are either have category 1 hazards, which are the hazards to life and limb, or are not energy efficient, which is one of the hazards anyway. Okay.
Thank you. Can I just ask you, does the private sector include the housing associations?
No.
Yes and no. We legally do have to include them.
Yeah.
But knowing through the work we've already done with, particularly with Progress, we know where they're up to with getting the properties up to an efficiency standard.
So we'll be working
and they're
with
going ahead of where they legally have to be.
Yeah, so we're working with the housing associations to make sure they're doing, but they have got a statutory duty. But our policy for the work that we're going to be doing is going to be targeted on the private renter sector and the owner occupiers. But we will be working with the housing associations because they're looking at Progress. They're looking at employing somebody, aren't they, to look at carbon neutrality in their housing stock.
They are indeed, yes.
So we're going to be partnering with them to deliver some projects together. So we'll be working with them.
Councillor Martin.
Just to add about fuel poverty can be quite a weird science because it's a formula between being able to keep warm, whether it's affordable to keep at that temperature, and your income. And there has been some recent sort of evidence to show that people with oil-fired heating can have an issue. So there's people who are not connected to the gas and things like that. And I think there are some properties in Longton and places like that that are oil-fired. So in theory, you could see a big pile of bricks and they could still be in fuel poverty. But again, it's about insulating that property and making sure so the scheme that Jennifer alluded to is open to all. And and what you pay is reliant on your income and your affordability to do so. So it's quite a weird science. It's not just people on housing estates and council estates that have fuel poverty. Generally, their houses are better maintained than some of the private stock that we have.
Just a quick one. Sorry, David. One of the anomalies that I've come across is that people can be property rich and cash poor, and they're really hard to identify because they don't want to declare themselves in those positions. So I don't know if we can do something more about removing the stigma from that as well. Thank you.
One of the actions within the Green Agenda Corporate project is to promote energy efficiency measures generally in the schemes and grant work that's available. So we are going to be looking at promoting what is available to people. And obviously through the other work we're doing, we've identified those properties that have been rated as poor. And obviously if we go to one and the next door is exactly the same, then we can start making inroads in there as well.
Yeah, we've got a list of people that we know are extremely vulnerable because they've been identified as COVID extremely vulnerable. So next week we're going to be writing out to them with a winter warmth leaflet, and part of that winter warmth leaflet will be some of the grants that are available to look at boiler repair and energy efficiency. So there's about 5,000 people that have been identified in that group who are vulnerable to COVID that we're going to write out to, so they can get some information and give us a ring to the community hub.
Okay, thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Will Adams?
Thank you, Chair. At the last scrutiny meeting, we had the Community Wealth Building Action Plan. Linking into that, will this action plan encourage local procurement?
Yes, we are currently talking internally with the procurement team. We want to try and change the way we look at procurement from a climate point of view to include it within any sort of tender documents. That will include obviously how far people are travelling to provide services to us. So therefore, the closer you are, and if you're within the borough, that will, in theory, generate greater points within a tender process. So it will include it within that side of things. There are a couple of other options that I'm investigating at the moment, which I might want to bring forward, which will specifically look at procurement within the borough as well. So yes, it will look at that and from sort of a sidestep include local procurement.
Thank you.
Councillor Michael Green.
Thanks, Chairman. What kind of networking is taking place to both learn and to share best practice? And to what level is work taking place with other councils in the country that have declared a climate emergency?
So we have officer groups, that we've got various team groups. There is one across Lancashire. There is a Northwest Regional one. We have access to a number of online forums that we use, which all now have climate groups, which I'm a member of. And then obviously the ones that members are involved in as well. So there are quite a few different groups that are available to us that we are dipping in and out of to share good practice and find out what other people are doing.
Yeah, and we're part of the cooperative council's cooperative network, so that we learn from good practice from the network as well.
Councillor Martin.
I was just about to mention the Cooperative Councils Network. Unfortunately, they normally have an AGM every year, and we went last year, but they're not having one this year. I'm also talking to people that I know. We try and break up our committee meetings with speakers or guests. I think one of the most emerging, one of the most important ones will be CPRE, which we support, and they are supporting us. Hopefully through them we'll get introductions to people at the Liverpool City region and Manchester as well. So hopefully we can try and keep it in the northwest to some degree, because I think the climates are the same. But the cooperative councils, I was going to look into that anyway, but I think we'll probably do that as a collective as well. So I mean, there's lots of people who are willing to help. Most of them want us to pay them, but we're going to try and avoid that as much as we can.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Karen Walton.
Thank you, Chair. What timescales have been proposed for the development of the action plan once this stage of the consultation is complete? And will the council's response to the pandemic impact on what the action plan will be, as people's behaviours will probably be different, the economy and other factors will also be different?
So the timescale has been set that we will hopefully have the action plan to full council in around June time, which is when we're due for an update, a yearly update on the strategy. We want to do a proper cost benefit analysis of anything that we want to take forward, anything that comes out of the consultation process for the action plan. That obviously takes a bit of time to do. We are approaching universities at the moment to see if anybody is willing to do that for us. As soon as that work is done, we'll be putting together the action plan and putting it through to the group for any comments and refinement out for us, a short consultation on the action plan, and then to full council for agreement.
Do you think that it might be a good idea to have a members' briefing on the action plan before it goes to full council, so that all members are aware of what's happening, and bring them up to date with any information?
There's no reason why we can't do that at all, and we can put something in the process to do that.
Yes, I think that will be a good idea. I think that all members need to be involved in this and be on board with whatever action plan and whatever in the future will hold. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Colin Sharples.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say, listening to all this, how impressed I am by all the work and the processes involved. It's fantastic effort. My question just will be, will the Scrutiny Committee be able to comment on the draft action plan before it is agreed by the Council?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Keith, you happy with that?
Of course, I'm happy with that. As some of you will be aware, I was on Scrutiny for 1 or 2 or 7 years, and Scrutiny does play, bigging up Scrutiny now, Scrutiny does play a very important part in what we've done in the past, and we've had some very good successes with benefiting our communities. So this work can only carry forward, and I would congratulate the chair on asking us to hear.
Thank you very much.
Your congratulations are always welcome, Councillor Martin. Are there any other questions from members of the committee at this stage? If not, is there anything anybody not on committee would like to add? If not, could Darren take us through our recommendations, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just some of the themes that the committee might like to recommend based on the discussion. Firstly, that the committee thanks the task group chair and the officers for attending and welcomes the great work that the task group has done in developing the consultation. The committee encourages members to use their contacts and to respond to the consultation before the deadline. The committee looks forward to the scrutiny panel receiving quarterly updates on the green agenda as part of the corporate strategy performance reports. The committee supports the commitment to engage partners further in the action plan development and the ideas to enthuse and involve local communities. The committee would like to see the South Ribble local plan reflect carbon reduction principles and link with the climate emergency action plan, including considering incentives for new housing being built to a higher energy efficient standard. And the committee wishes the member task group well with developing the action plan and would ask that the Scrutiny Committee be presented with a draft of the plan before it is agreed at full council. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything anybody would like to add to that? If not, can we agree that? I'll take silence as agreement. Okay, thank you. Moving on then, if I could now belatedly welcome Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, who's contributed already, along with Neil Anderson, the Assistant Director of Projects, for an update on the Worden Hall progress report. We've had a report in writing. Would you like to add anything to it?
Thanks, Chairman. Those who follow Cabinet meetings will recall just before Christmas, Cabinet did delegate some authority to me in order to get on with this work. There's no doubt we are behind where we would have liked to be when we first launched this project, but nobody saw COVID coming. And let's be honest, if we'd been on track where we wanted to be, the hospitality trade that we'd be relying on helping to support this is simply not there. But Cabinet remain ambitious and want to get on with this project. And that is why we've gone for the perhaps slightly unusual track of looking to tender the works before we've actually got planning permission. Because the plan is now in and has been verified and should be heard by the planning committee in February. But we've consulted widely. Our planning staff have been involved in drawing up the plans, so I have every expectation that this should, not wishing to prejudge the views of the planning committee in any way, but it should have a reasonable passage through planning. As you'll see now, though, we have appointed a project management and QS company, the local based in Leyland, which I'm really pleased about, and we've begun some of the other tender exercises as well. We should be on site all being well, perhaps the end of March, and the actual real work, the physical work to the building that I all know we all want to see, I'm now expecting to start in the summer. And I've given a target. I've given a target that I want to see this exciting brand new facility open for the public in time for Leyland Festival 2022. I think it would be great if we're back to a world where we can have a Leyland Festival again. Let's hope by the summer of 2022 to be able to have thousands of people on Weardon Park who will have the chance to visit this brand new facility. So there's quite a bit been done actually since we last met as a scrutiny committee, and indeed, considering we've had the Christmas break, a fair bit of progress since Cabinet in December. The bullet points are there. I'm happy to try and answer any questions or respond to any comments the committee have had. And if not, if they're a bit more technical or I've forgotten something, I know I've got Neil to back me up.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Colin Sharples.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for that report, Matthew. My question is about the fifth bullet point. It refers to stakeholder engagement being ongoing. Who are the key stakeholders and how are they being engaged?
So there's a range, as you would expect, of stakeholders. The people who currently use the craft units, the people who operate the cafe. Obviously, the Scrutiny Committee, I would count this as being part of engagement, engaging with members. And there's some publicity coming up from our comms team to make sure we engage with the general public as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Michael Green.
Thanks, Chairman. Thanks for the update, Councillor Tomlinson. Is the project still expected to come in within the capital budget which has been set and allocated by the council?
I think I made this one of my firm commitments on this. We have, the original projection was about 2.2 million, and we set a budget for that. I don't think I'd be breaching any confidences by saying that some of the plans that were then brought forward broke that figure, and I encouraged our staff to engineer the project back to get back within that budget. And I think I said to Councillor Ogilvie at Cabinet when he posed me the question, what would you do if you could finish it quicker but it broke the budget, or would you rather wait 3 to 6 months and bring it on budget? I'm committed to bringing this on budget. I can't give a 100% guarantee, of course not, but what I can say to the committee is I will be doing my utmost to bring this in on budget. It's a big investment for this council. I'm happy to justify the investment. It's a listed building that we own and is desperate for investment, and it will be a great facility, but it is a significant amount of money, and I'll be doing my best to make sure it comes in on budget.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stephen Thirlbourne.
I think you've actually answered the question, but what is the project expected to be completed and the building brought back into use? I think
so. I have, yeah. I mean, I would have liked it to be quicker, and so will Councillor Foster. I know between us we've put an awful lot of pressure on officers to try and squeeze the timetable, but I think the one that I've suggested now is a realistic one. It remains ambitious, I think, but it is realistic. And everybody involved with the project knows that our target is to have this open in time for Leyland Festival next year.
Right, fine, thank you.
And Councillor Karen Moulton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Matthew, for your update tonight and the progress so far. But how will the project have moved on when the Scrutiny Committee next meets in March?
So I'm hoping that it'll have been granted planning permission. Of course, that's completely up to the members of the planning committee. But I'm hoping with the work that our officers have done on this, the application that we've submitted will be granted by the committee. And if that's so, we could be well on the way with some of the procurement for some of the more detailed work. Certainly the architectural, structural engineering, mechanical and electrical and plumbing, or MEP tender could possibly have been granted by then. And there are some works we want to do around the craft units that all ties in with this, and potentially we might have started those by March too. So hopefully we'll have something positive to say when we come back next time as well.
I look forward to hearing all the positive work you're doing. Thank you, Matthew.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything further any members or officers would like to add? If not, I do have a question from a member of the public, which I will read out because this was submitted in writing earlier today. The following statement was included in the Worden Park update to be discussed at tonight's scrutiny meeting. Appointment of Gosling Construction Services, GCS, to provide project management and quantity surveying support via a waiver undertaken. VFM demonstrated through benchmarking against similar value Chorley schemes. GCS are a Leyland-based company. And the member of the public states that I gather, rightly or wrongly, from the wording via a waiver undertaken, that no other company was considered for that contract. My questions are as follows. What is the estimated value of the contract? And where is my second page? Thank you. If no other company was considered for the contract, who made the decision to award the contract to GCS? If the contract was awarded via competitive evaluation, are figures available?
Okay, I believe that's from Mr. Derbyshire. So I will do my best to answer the question. In terms of how much is the contract worth, this is a private business arrangement between us and the council, and as such, I'm not in a position to reveal how much the contract's worth. Certainly not in an open forum. In terms of the decision to appoint Gosling, we after the cabinet meeting in December, we were fortunate enough to get some assistance on this project from colleagues in Chorley who have a standalone department for delivery, who have got, to be honest, more capacity for dealing with projects like this. Neil and Jonathan here have got a lot on, and they're stretched very, very thinly. And Chorley have got a bit more experience. You know, they've developed quite a few things over the years. So we did bring in one of their team to assist us. They've done this kind of work before. They know Gosling. They were able to benchmark the cost against similar projects, and they are a Leyland company. And I was quite happy to approve the appointment of a Leyland company who've given us a competitive tender on work that we wanted to get on with. You know, if we could have gone out to tender and it taken 3 to 6 months to get somebody in, that's clearly not where we are. We are in the process of, you know, that social value stuff, spending South Ribble's money in South Ribble, and I was happy to approve the appointment. I hope I've answered that question, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, the gentleman, I don't think, is on the Teams meeting. So thank you for that response. We will have to wait and see if anything else comes back from that. If I could now ask Darren to take us through recommendations on Worden Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Just reflecting on the conversation, some of the themes could potentially be that the committee thanks the Cabinet member for attending and his written update on the project. The Scrutiny Committee welcomes the progress being made and the ambition to have the Worden Hall open for Leyland Festival 2022, and the committee looks forward to future progress reports on the Worden Hall project. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything anybody would like to add to that? If not, can we agree that? If you could all nod, I'll take that as agreed. Thank you. That then takes us on to item number 8, which is scrutiny matters. The first one is the Lancashire County Council Health Scrutiny Committee. I have attended 2 committees in December. The first was on the 15th of December, where the main item, and mainly the only item on the agenda, was the NHS Test and Trace and Mass Testing report from Abdul Razak, the consultant in public health. COVID really is a moving feast, and what may well have been pertinent in the middle of December isn't necessarily pertinent now. But what is alarming is that hospital admissions are historically at the highest levels in January and February, and the central government winter plan to prevent the spread of COVID is via contact tracing and testing. Lancashire was working with the military to deliver a 6-week targeted surge programme of asymptomatic lateral flow testing to care and education settings, as well as the faith sector and large employers. And we were advised that local contact tracing was more effective in reaching residents to offer support and guidance, reaching between 60 to 90%. Central government had introduced a scheme to allow travellers returning to the UK to pay for a private test to release those with a negative result from the requirement to self-isolate. And according to data, the recently approved Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine was 95% effective and would be made available for a phased rollout based on the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation priority list. And I think if you've been following the news, you'll see that that is now being rolled out, and various doctors' practices and the like are now have made contact with the priority list, and those immunisations are taking place. The second meeting I attended was the day after, and that was a working group, task and finish group, on the A&E at South Ribble and Chorley Hospital. That was a scoping meeting, in effect, to decide where the group wanted to go with that, and you will get updates as and when that progresses. So that's it on the Health Scrutiny Committee. That takes us to item B, which is meetings and training attended by Scrutiny Committee members. I don't know if there are any, if anybody has any to report back on. I'm not seeing any indication. So that then takes us to the Cabinet Forward Plan, which is attached to allow members to identify any future items they would like to consider. And I think we've already established earlier this evening that bringing forward our work on our scrutiny on housing associations is the main priority. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add to that? Right, in which case we will proceed as we decided, and that then takes us to the Scrutiny Forward Plan. Do we have any comments or input on that? Again, if we can note that then, and that brings me to thank you for attending this evening. That is the last item on the agenda.